I have to thank Mr. Davis for always leaving me at a really cool spot where I get to talk about great stuff. So thanks, Mr. Davis. Okay, today we're going to talk about the 7 sins of memory. They're not really sins. What that means is there are 7 things that your memory does that screws up. They're very predictable ways. So we're going to talk about probably not all of the 7 today, but we're also going to talk about amnesia. Amnesia is a real thing, but not as real as you would think when you watch movies and television shows. Okay, so there are 2 types of amnesia. There's anterograde and retrograde, and I want you to, just for your mnemonic, retro. When you think retro fashion, retroactive, it means looking back. So retrograde amnesia means you can't look back because you don't have those memories. That happens to all of us to some extent. So I know a friend who got into a car accident, a pretty bad car accident, and lost a week of her life. She just couldn't remember the previous week. She remembered who she was, she remembered where she lived, all that other stuff. So generally, if we have retrograde amnesia going backwards, we don't lose years and years and years of our lives. Now the anterograde is the one that's really scary. So all you need to remember is retrograde is the one that goes back, anterograde goes in the opposite direction. So anterograde is tricky because if you get damage to your hippocampus, which is actually, it's not common, but it's not super uncommon. The hippocampus takes memories and moves them from short-term memory or your working memory into long-term memory. If that gets damaged, all you have is short-term memory. Think about that. Short-term memory can only hold about 7 things, and short-term memory lasts less than a minute. So each moment of your life, you are just kind of forgetting, and then you have the present moment, and then you forget, and you have the present moment, and you never can make a new memory. That is super scary. Obviously, there's a video from a guy named Clive Waring who basically spends his whole life in the present moment. So those are the 2 types of amnesia. And basically what we know with retrograde amnesia is that the most recent memories are forgotten first. So let's say you get into a car accident. You're not going to say, wow, I don't remember 3rd grade. That would be weird. It kind of moves its way backwards. And the more damaging the amnesia, the further back it will go. And that's pronounced Rebo's law. And if you've ever seen Memento or 51st States, that is the inability to form new memories. Retrograde amnesia, like the born memories, kind of who am I? That is retrograde. Can't remember things from the past. Okay, I might do the forgetting frequency questionnaire in class here, coming up soon, but we can't do it on the video. So let's look at the 7 sins. These are the 7. I don't need to go over this slide too much. This is just kind of setting it up for you. We're going to go through them one by one. Blocking. Mr. Davis might have left me this one because I have to give you a mnemonic that is used by all kinds of psychology teachers. I did not make this up. I'm sorry. It's a little dirty. Sort of, but it's a way I hope that you're going to remember blocking. Okay, so one memory gets in the way of the other. It blocks it. So the first one is proactive interference. An old memory blocks a new memory. So let's say this happened to me well into my marriage. I called my wife's work and asked for her by her maiden name. And they were like, she doesn't work here. Karen Holcomb doesn't work here? No, I'm sorry, she doesn't. Oh, weird. And I hung up the phone and I went, ugh, I'm such an idiot. She changed her name to my last name, but I called her by her old. And this was many years after I should have figured this out. So that was definitely some proactive interference. That old memory of her name was blocking my new memory of her name. That happened to me when I moved. I moved houses like 8 blocks away. This was 7 years ago. And I'd start driving, and I'd be driving to my old house. And dang it! And I'd have to turn. So it was close enough that that old memory of the directions to my house was blocking the new memory of directions to my new house. That's proactive. And then there's retroactive interference, where new information blocks your old information. I'm going to play my nerd card here. And I mean card literally because I have my library card number memorized because I check out so many books at the library. Go ahead, call nerd. Go ahead and point your finger at the screen. Nerd, that's fine. But I do have it memorized because I check out so many books. But I had to get a new library card number because I lost my old library card. And they won't just reissue your old number. You have to get a new number. I had my old number memorized too, but guess what? I don't remember that now, not even close. So my new memory of my new library card number is blocking my old memory. Now, those two, and I'll tell you, I don't know why the psych tests love this, but they're always asking questions about retroactive and proactive interference. Here's the mnemonic, and again, I apologize. It is PORN, P-O-R-N. And you're thinking, you're trying to be weird. I'm not. Every psych teacher knows this. And here's the mnemonic. Proactive, P, old blocks new. So P-O, proactive, old blocks new. And in retroactive, R, new, N blocks old. Probably should write it down. So if you write P-O-R-N, in proactive, old blocks new. In retroactive, new blocks old. That's the mnemonic. So we'll have some practice on this coming up for the test too, before the test. Okay, transients. Now when you think, and this is not something you should call people who are experiencing homelessness, but sometimes they will call people transients. They'll call them, hobos or transients or something like that. We should call them people experiencing homelessness. But why are they called transients? Why is that term there? Because they are moving from place to place. They don't stay in one spot. And that's what happens to your memory. Your memory doesn't stay in one spot. It is impermanent. The same way a person who is transient does not stay in one spot, is in an impermanent spot, your memory is in an impermanent spot. And that just means memories fade over time. Memories move from the spot where they are. That is a very natural thing. Now, how do we get rid of transients? Obviously, it's the spacing effect. It is coming back to it. We're going to talk about that. But naturally, memories will fade over time. And this Carl Ebbinghaus had this really great, I'm going to have to move this so you can kind of see it. He talked about transients and how memories fade. Now, let's take a look at this. So let's say I teach something today. So I'm teaching Ebbinghaus's forgetting curve. And what's going to happen is over time, and this axis is time. So you remember 100% right now. You're like, Ebbinghaus's forgetting curve, I got that down. And the second you leave this class, it just goes down, 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 down. So if you don't revisit it, at some point a week later, you're going to remember about 20% of it. As a teacher, that's terrifying. So I teach you something and a week later you forget 80% of it? Yep, that's what happened. And notice the decline is super steep right after. So it's not only that you forget it, you're going to forget it today. It's that after your next class, you're like, I've already forgot half of what I used to know. Oh, so what do I have to do? I have to give you a repetition. So here is my second repetition. So if I repeat it again, or if you repeat it again, the spacing effect, which we talked about on a previous slide, if you do it again, look at where your forgetting goes. It goes down to about here, so you forget about 40%. Let's say you repeat it again. Your forgetting goes down to about 60%. Let's say you repeat it again. Your forgetting goes down to about 80%. So basically what this says is, yes, Ebbinghaus's forgetting curve says you forget a lot right off the bat. But it also says if you revisit it, you're going to forget less off the bat. And if you revisit it again, you're going to forget less and less, to the point where if you keep repeating and keep studying, you are going to forget less and less. Okay, so I'm going to let Mr. Davis take over from here.